Good morning, everybody. This is Meredith Herrenbrook with Living Your Awesome. How are you guys doing today? So, I was on Soul Wanderings last night with AJ Rasmussen. Lovely, lovely woman. She was just, I loved her questions and I loved her energy. I think she's been through a lot of similar things and had clients with a lot of similar issues. And anyway, it kind of brought up something for me on this. Am I good enough, right? Am I enough? Fill in the blank. Am I strong enough? Am I wise enough? Am I nice enough? Etc., etc., etc. But here's the thing, you guys, is that we are relating all these questions to someone else, some other judgment, some other person out there who is giving us a rule book. But I've got to tell you that there is no rule book, and we're all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and we're all trying our best, of course. But am I enough, I think, is really what it boils down to. If you've heard me talk about the organismic rights, the right to exist, the right to need, the right to be autonomous, make your own choices, the right to one's own action, the right to love and to be loved. That's what it kind of boils down to. Here's how we live life. This is really, really simple. Everything boils down to this. Do I feel safe? Do I feel loved? And can I survive whatever that experience is? That's how we make our choices. That's how we make our patterns. That's how we get to the next moment. But here's a challenging question for you. According to whom do you not feel good enough for? For me, when I was growing up, my parents were tough, right? You know, there's a lot to deal with as a parent and having older siblings and everything else. I was putting a lot of extra pressure on myself all the time. And I think I internalized their stresses. I internalized their judgments to make them my own so that I could be better, I could be stronger, I could be enough. But when you really look at the am I enough question, it's always relating to an outside source. Because if you are enough, if you are strong enough and so forth and so on, then it's all according to your own playbook. So let's get into what your own playbook is. How do you want to live life? Forget the rest of the world. Forget the rest. What do you want for yourself? Do you want to be, I mean, of course everyone says, well, I want to be happy. But what does that mean? Be really specific. Important that when we are comparing ourselves to everybody else in the world, you're going to get really exhausted. I got really exhausted trying to live up to the standard, right? Whatever I thought the standard was. There's no standard. There isn't. There are people who homestead. There are people who live in Alaska. There are people who live on top of mountains. There are people who, practically, live at the beach or underwater and they're surfing all the time. Fantastic. Everyone has their own way of living and hopefully minimizing harm and being kind to themselves and the rest of the world. There is no one way to live. There is no one way. There's no one rule book that says you have to live exactly like this. Now, there are general rules that we find useful. Try and be kind to others, etc., right? But when you are looking at am I enough? Am I good enough, right? In work or in a relationship or whatever, you're going to be chasing the end of your tail because you are looking constantly for an outside source of approval. And I'll tell you, no one has their shit together. I'll be really honest. They might have a lot of it together, but when you start living with your own purpose, with your own guidepost, with your own map, you'll become much more powerful. You'll become more grounded. You'll become more expansive. And it's this weird flip-flop thing that happens because when you're trying to live according to someone else, you're trying to live okay and by someone's rule book, then, well, you're never going to listen to your own truth. You're never going to find your own happiness and what that means to you. But when you start looking inward and start listening to your soul, you start listening to that depth, I will tell you that's where your inspiration will begin. That's where your inspiration and excitement and moving towards the next step will come that much faster. Stop looking at those outside sources and start looking and trusting yourself. So are you good enough? Absolutely. You're good enough for you in all the ways that you are, right? Then if you go, well, I'm not. Well, you have to again go back to that imprint, as I talked before. Go back to that childhood state and go, what was going on there? What was happening such that I believed that I wasn't good enough? And it's probably to try and fit in. Community is a very persuasive force. Family is a very persuasive force, but it's not everything. It helps us get to the next step, right? To survive to teenage years, hopefully, and college and, having a job and so forth where you can really stand on your own 2 feet. Yes, it is a support system, but it is not everything. You are everything. And you are the person by which you need to live. I hope that makes sense. It's very hard to trust in ourselves, to trust in our power, but guys, I have to tell you, you're so much more powerful than you realize. You really are. So I want to remind these things, give you these reminders because, the outside world is a very persuasive force, but you are more powerful and you're here to do you. You're here on this earth to find yourself, find your passion and live it and love it and move through it, right? You don't have to live with the past. You don't have to live with all those old things. When you move through them and find your center and you find your power and you find your excellence, and then you'll become expansive. And then when you become more expansive, what happens? Well, then all that happiness and all that joy and all that passion leaks out into the world. And then what happens? Well, then everyone gets kind of that little bug of like, wow, that person's happy. Thank you. Wow. And then they start to believe it within themselves. So am I good enough? It's because you don't believe in yourself, because someone long ago and far away put in your head that you were not good enough. Whatever that reason was, maybe they didn't feel good enough, right? We're always doing the best we can in all the ways we can right now. And if we could do better, then we would, okay? But life is a process. Life is a journey. We are not meant to know everything all right now. But you can always get to that next step. You can always just find a little bit more joy. And one way to find that joy is get rid of this feeling of inadequacy, because it is not helpful. You trying to put yourself down for someone else, whatever the reason, harms you and it harms the world. Everyone, especially right now, needs brightness. We need light. We need love and laughter and kindness and your passion, such that your gifts can go out into the world. And when you do that and you find your passion, you find your love right here. It's nowhere else but here. You cannot find it in a newspaper. You cannot find it in your parents. You cannot find it anywhere but here. And no one can tell you how to do it. You just have to do it yourself. You have to bash against those old belief systems. You have to bash against all those old thoughts and patterns and go, do I need to believe those anymore? But you have to do the work. You have to look in and go, all right, I'm going to finally open that page and write it down. What do I believe about myself? What do I want to believe about myself? And if all these things I'm wanting to believe about myself over here, I'm not doing, then I need to figure out why. How am I not there? you need to be tough with yourself. This is not a spectator sport, I will tell you, but I have been to the depths. I have gone through those pages. I have thought and looked in depth for years. And NLP helped. It brought to the root on what I was thinking, how I was thinking, what I was thinking, feeling, and doing, and what the whole mechanisms that were holding those in place. So when you look at that in depth, then you can go, aha, that is why I'm thinking and feeling and doing those things. Aha, I know I don't have to feel that way anymore. But what do I want to feel instead? Okay, so again, all this work is internal. And when you look at it deeply, then you can dispel those old myths. You can dispel all that old stuff, those feelings of inadequacy. Because you feeling less than is all your own BS that you've told yourself to make someone feel more powerful, to just get along, to just make it. But we're not into making it anymore. We are into not just surviving, we are into thriving. We are into getting better and being happier and stronger and more powerful. And lay all that old stuff down because we don't need it anymore. Okay? So those are some words of inspiration. So if you are feeling inadequate, less than, not enough, guys, I was a champion of doing that. So I know of what I speak, I promise. But I can help you through it. I can help you dispel that such that you are now more powerful and trusting of this. True source or God or whatever got you here in this earth, experiencing this life now, didn't put you here so you could feel crappy about yourself. Did not put you here to make someone feel better. Okay? We have gifts, we have blessings, and we need to share it with ourselves and believe it within ourselves. And then we can share it with the world. And that's where the world becomes greater. Okay, so when we are not feeling enough, the world misses out on your fabulous gifts. So, an exercise that I am going to give you guys, and I talked with AJ Rasmussen last night about it, it's called mirror work. And it helps you stay out of story. And what you do is you light a candle and you sit in front of a mirror and the lights are dimmed behind you. And it is time to do that mirror work where you look in deeply and you just look at what comes up. Maybe emotions come up, maybe sadness or anger or whatever. Follow that rabbit hole and release it. Acknowledge it. And then maybe do what's called ho'oponopono, is I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you and I thank you. And what does that do? That transformation clears the energy from 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. I do a lot of high-end energy work. I go into the depths of past lives, soul clearing, soul fragments, and so forth. And I'm here to tell you that these transformations are powerful, and they don't just help you. They help the energy around you and your family members, past and present and future. So I wish you bright blessings today. I wish you lots of love on this beautiful Thursday. Easter is coming on Sunday. It'll be a very special family time for renewal, rebirth, for joy. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please go to my website, livingyourawesome.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute consultation, and we will map out an amazing path for you so you can feel better, feel more awesome. Have a great day, you guys.